In the heart of a grand city, high above its bustling squares, stood a magnificent statue. It was the statue of the happy prince, gilded all over with thin leaves of pure gold. For eyes, he had 2 bright sapphires, and a great red ruby burned in the hilt of his sword. The people of the city adored him. "How beautiful he looks," they'd say, admiring his golden glow. But no one knew that the happy prince, high on his pedestal, was not happy at all. His heart, made of lead, was heavy with sorrow. From his high perch, he could see all the misery and poverty of his city sights he never saw when he lived in his palace, where sorrow was not allowed to enter. One evening, a little swallow flew over the city, on his way to Egypt for the winter. He had been delayed, having fallen in love with a beautiful reed. But her silent nature and refusal to travel had broken his heart, and so he flew on alone. Searching for a place to rest, he spotted the shining statue. "A fine place to stay," he thought, settling between the prince's golden feet. But as he tucked his head under his wing, a drop of water fell on him. Then another. He looked up and gasped. The eyes of the happy prince were filled with tears running down his golden cheeks. "Who are you?" asked the swallow. "I am the happy prince," the statue replied. "When I was alive, I lived in a palace where I never knew tears. But now they have set me up so high that I see all the ugliness of my city, and though my heart is made of lead, I cannot help but weep." The swallow's own heart was touched. The prince then told him of a poor seamstress in a small house, her son sick with a fever and crying for oranges she could not afford. "Little swallow," the prince pleaded, "will you take her, the ruby from my sword hilt? My feet are fastened to this pedestal, and I cannot move." The swallow hesitated. He longed for the warmth of Egypt, but seeing the prince's sorrow, he agreed. He plucked the ruby from the sword and flew across the dark city. He found the house and laid the ruby beside the woman's thimble, then gently fanned the boy's forehead with his wings. "How cool I feel," the child whispered. "I think I'm getting better." The swallow flew back to the prince. "It's curious," he said, "but though it's so cold, I feel quite warm." "That," said the prince, "is because you have done a good deed." The next evening, as the swallow prepared to leave, the prince called to him again. "Will you stay with me one more night?" He spoke of a young playwright in a cold attic, too hungry and freezing to finish his play. "Take him one of my sapphire eyes," the prince said, "so he may buy food and firewood." The swallow was horrified. "My prince, I cannot do that." But the prince insisted. With a heavy heart, the swallow plucked out the sapphire and carried it to the playwright. The young man was overjoyed, seeing a way to finish his work. When the swallow returned, he told the prince, "You are blind in one eye now." But the prince simply replied, "Yet I can still see the misery below." The following night, the prince spoke of a little match girl in the square below. Her matches had fallen into the gutter, and she was crying, afraid to go home without any money. "Take my other eye and give it to her," he commanded. "No, my prince," the swallow cried. "Then you will be completely blind." "Do as I command," the prince said gently. So, the swallow plucked out the second sapphire and slipped it into the little girl's hand. She ran home, overjoyed. The swallow returned to the now blind statue. "You are blind now," he said softly, "so I will stay with you always." He perched on the prince's shoulder, telling him stories of faraway lands, and the prince listened, smiling, though he could no longer see. As winter set in, the cold grew harsh. Snow covered the city. At the prince's request, the swallow flew over the streets. seeing the rich making merry while the poor shivered in the cold. He saw starving children huddled under bridges. He told the prince, "Everything. I am covered with fine gold," said the prince. "Take it off, leaf by leaf, and give it to my poor. The living always think gold can make them happy." So, the swallow peeled off the gold leaves, one by one, delivering them to the needy. Children's faces grew rosy, and they laughed in the streets. "We have bread now," they cried. Soon, the statue of the happy prince looked dull and gray, but the people were warm and fed. The frost grew severe, and the little swallow grew weaker. He knew his end was near. "Goodbye, dear prince," he whispered. "Will you let me kiss your hand?" "I am glad you are going to Egypt at last," the prince replied. "But kiss me on the lips, for I love you." "It is not to Egypt that I am going," said the swallow. "I am going to the house of death." He kissed the blind prince on the lips and fell dead at his feet. At that very moment, a curious, cracking sound came from inside the statue. The leaden heart had broken in two. The next morning, the mayor saw the shabby statue. "He's no longer beautiful," he declared. "We must melt him down." In the furnace, the statue melted, but the broken lead heart would not. "How strange," said the overseer. And he threw it on the dust heap, right beside the body of the dead swallow. But their story does not end there. In heaven, God asked one of his angels, "Bring me the two most precious things in the city." The angel brought him the leaden heart and the dead bird. "You have chosen rightly," said God, "for in my garden of paradise, this little bird shall sing forevermore, and in my city of gold, the happy prince shall praise me." And so, the happy prince and the little swallow, bound by a love that demanded ultimate sacrifice, found their eternal reward. Oscar Wilde's timeless tale teaches us that true beauty and happiness are not found in gold or jewels, but in the boundless power of compassion and selflessness. It's a reminder that the greatest acts of love often go unseen, but their warmth can break through even the coldest of winters. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more tales that stand the test of time.